Okay, so first off, tell me what they alleged, and then tell me how you and others tore down the allegations.
So the way this happened is that I'll go way back and see how it started with Evan Rachel Wood. So
Yeah.
Evan Rachel Wood, for years and years, had always been adamant in interviews over years about the fact that Marilyn Manson was great, that he wasn't at all this weird controlling guy that people were afraid of. In fact, with him, she had finally found the freedom to be who she really was. So anyway, so for years and years, and then after they broke up, even in subsequent interviews and so forth, nothing but good things to say about him and her time with him. And then what happened was when she claims that, and she said this in an interview, she claims that when Trump was elected, that it was a wake up call for her that she needed to become more of an activist. And therefore, she was going to start sharing about the sexual assaults that she had been through. Now, back then, she claimed originally that she had been assaulted by two people, a significant other, and then the owner of a bar. And elsewhere in the interview, she mentions Manson in a really good light. So it's almost like in that interview, she's talking about two people unrelated to Manson. It's kind of strange. But what happened was for several years after that, she began speaking out as an activist about the trauma of being an abuse assault survivor, never naming Manson. Then she testified before the U.S. House of Representatives, like the main one, the Capitol. She testified before a bunch of House members about her trauma. And she also testified before the California Assembly. She wrote a law, a bill that became a law, a Survivors Act, the Phoenix Act for survivors, extending the statute of limitations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
Jesus.
so here's the point that I'm making. She got a lot of fucking mileage and attention as this activist. And also at this time, she was dating a woman who was also an activist and also had herself engaged in some hoaxes before this. And this woman, Ilma Gore, her claim to fame was having painted a portrait of Trump with a micro penis. And so that was her big work of art that got her a lot of acclaim, was Trump with a
I
micro penis.
remember that actually, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's Evan Rachel Wood's ex-girlfriend. And so what happened was these two got together and it was kind of like a perfect storm, like feeding off of each other, and really began creating this image of Evan Rachel Wood as this activist who's been abused. Now, she never mentioned Manson until she was interested in doing, and here's where Amy Berg comes into it. She was interested, Evan Rachel Wood, in doing a documentary and having Amy Berg do it about her work as an activist, Evan Rachel Wood's work as an activist. And Amy Berg was interested, kind of, but it seems, if reading between the lines, that she knew that there was not really something very enticing there. Like, how many people are really going to want to watch a documentary about Evan Rachel Wood's gender activism? Like, nobody, right? Be like a vanity project. And so what happened was at this point, Evan Rachel Wood then starts talking about Marilyn Manson and lets Amy Berg know that she would be willing to actually name Manson and go after Manson. And at that point, Amy Berg got a lot more interested. HBO eventually came on. And so then finally, months after that, in a hyper coordinated announcement where there were actual documentary cameras, Amy Berg right next to her when Evan Rachel Wood did this, she got online and she named Manson in an Instagram post. That was February 2nd or 3rd of 2021. And of course, this is all captured in the documentary, and she's putting on the great show of like crying and all of that, right, for the documentary. But she names Manson as her abuser. And then on the same day, multiple other women come out naming him as an abuser as well. They all come out on their Instagram. Now,
By the way, I
this,
want to say two things about Amy Berg. First off,
yes.
she directed an Open Secret, which is it's an open secret that that movie's full of shit, and it's directed by Gabe Hoffman, or excuse me, it was funded by Gabe Hoffman, another enemy of mine, on Twitter, and it's filled with fake testimony. It was so bad that she even like I basically tried to. She didn't do any press for it. Right? It was so bad. So she's known for making movies that are full of shit. So she directed an Open Secret. A couple of the people like tried to speak out and say there were like false testimonies and stuff in the movie. Gabe Hoffman threatened to sue them and all this stuff. So she's
I'm
made,
glad you told me all that actually, because I had no
yes,
idea.
she made an open secret, and looked that up, and there's a Huffington Post article about how he threatened to sue them, etc. Anyway, now go ahead, continue with your story.
Yeah, so basically at that point, she and these other women named Manson, and this is basically the death knell for him and for his career, seemingly at that point, because you'll remember in 2021, we weren't, as a society, we were not nearly so jaded about Me Too and these types of allegations as we are now. And I think that people are much more skeptical, and they're much more hip to the fact that when you get things like money and the desire for money, the desire for fame, the desire for notoriety, personality disorders, all of this stuff can get together in a very combustible mix and create these situations, right? And it's not that there aren't a lot of women who are abused, but like these kinds of hoaxes, they're possible. But in 2021, it seemed like it was an open and shut case to almost everyone, because it's like, okay, all of these women and this respected Westworld actress, they're saying these horrible things about him, so goodbye. And so he lost everything at that point. There were articles attesting to the fact that his manager supposedly dropped him. I'm actually not sure in hindsight if that was true anymore, but there were articles saying that his manager dropped him, that his record label dropped him. He was dropped from several different TV shows that he was working on because he was branching out into an acting career at that point. He was, that was it. And so what he has spent the last 3.5 years doing is suing, first of all, suing Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore, and it's currently still in the courts, and then defending himself against various lawsuits. Nothing criminal, because the police investigated it. They closed the file. They sent it to the DA. I've talked to people that the police talked to, interviewed. They know it's a hoax. And they sent it to the DA, and woke DA, LADA George Gascon is sitting on it, and he's claiming he needs more information to make a final determination because he doesn't want to clear Manson for optical reasons, right? Because he's really woke and pro-victims and all that.
By the way, somebody in chat asked if Evan Rachel Wood was Jewish.
Mention that because one of the allegations that she threw in about Manson was that he was an anti-Semite,
yeah.
And this is because as well, she's not. I don't think that she's not
like
Jewish,
practicing, but I mean, if your mother's Jewish.
And she's, well, and in the documentary, she actually sings a song, I believe in Hebrew, and she's lighting a menorah with her son. So she's really trying to
lean
and
in
here's
on
the
that.
funny thing.
Yeah.
If you go back and you look at, there's concert, I have it on my Instagram page, but there's concert footage of Evan Rachel Wood doing the Hitler salute backstage at Manson concerts, and no one else is doing it because Manson actually doesn't do pro-fascist music. He's anti-fascist. And Evan Rachel Wood just thought it was so cool to go back there behind stage and nobody else doing it, to do the Hitler salute over and over. So it's really kind of funny when you think about this 180-degree turn that she's engaged in.
It's also funny because
I
see a quote from her, and this is from 2012. It says, "My mother is Jewish and I was raised with a religion. I believe in God, but I'm not religious. I am spiritual. My definition of God isn't any religion. It's very personal." And then you tell me she's lighting a menorah and all this shit.
She's leaning into it because It's part of her victim story that he targeted her partly because she was Jewish. So anyway, so basically what happened is Manson got for a while completely canceled. He did work hard for 3.5 years behind the scenes to get back to the point where he could do what he's doing now and is producing music and putting it out there. But the guy went through hell and he lost a lot of money, I'm sure, fighting these legal battles, and he's still fighting some of them. And so you ask, well, how did I come to this conclusion? Well, I could tell you a lot that he's innocent. I could tell you a lot of different things. People should look into my work, but I'll tell you a few things that are really compelling. First of all, we are certain, and this has been documented in the court system through actual evidence, we are certain that Evan Rachel Wood and her co-conspirator girlfriend at the time faked an FBI letter, and actually faked it, like wrote a fake letter. It was Manson related, wrote a fake letter, picked a real FBI agent, faked that agent's name, and then submitted this in court as a part of the family custody dispute that she was having with Jamie Bell, the father of her son. And it's a long story as to why she did this, but this is a woman who fakes government documents, forges government documents, and then submits them in court. I mean, how much more out of touch with reality and manipulative can you get? So that's one thing. Another thing is that she kidnapped her child and absconded and fled to Tennessee. And the father of her child, the actor Jamie Bell, had to plead with the judge to let him see his child and get Evan Rachel Wood to bring the child home, because he couldn't see the child for months because Evan Rachel Wood had kidnapped the kid and was putting him off and not
I
allowing
know a
him to
little
see the
something
kid.
about that too. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So, and this is all documented. Like, if you go on my Instagram or what have you, I have court documents there that people can read. It's astounding. And Jamie Bell, the father of her child, her ex, says in these court documents that she is psychologically damaging their kid by making the kid afraid of Marilyn Manson. He says that the kid around him would say things like, "We can't do fun things until Brian's in jail," and stuff like that. And so if you read the court documents, Jamie Bell clearly thinks that Evan Rachel Wood is a manipulative, narcissistic nut job, and he says in the court documents that her allegations about Manson defy credibility, something like that. So this is the kind of woman we're dealing with. We're not dealing with some angelic Westworld, android or something. Like, the real person is like an Amber Heard. She's like an Amber Heard. And of course, she was friends with Amber Heard for a while too, although they both like to deny that. But it's true. And I've talked to people who knew that they were hanging out a lot at a particular time. So anyway, that's another thing. And I'll give you the last thing. One of the main accusers of Manson, her name's Ashley Morgan Smithline. She was one of his main accusers. She was even on the cover of People magazine. She went on The View and various outlets proclaiming how horrible he was and how abused she was, and he treated me like an animal and all of this. Well, guess what? She came out in a legal document and declared that the whole thing was a hoax, and she lied, and Evan Rachel Wood recruited her to lie. It's all there in this legal document, and it's a legal document. It's not an interview. It's something that you're held to on threat of perjury. So to me, just these three things, it's like, come on. And you add to that the fact, this is my last point, that Manson has a former fiance named Rose McGowan, Ms. Metoo,
who started Metoo, basically.
And who has claimed on several occasions now that he never abused her, that she does not recognize the person who is described by these women. If you look in her book, I've read her book actually, she has a whole chapter on how awesome Manson was and like the sweetest guy, and he helped her heal from her experience with Harvey Weinstein. I mean, this guy is actually the opposite of how he's being portrayed. And I've talked to a number of women. I talked to an ex-girlfriend on my show who said the same thing about him. She says he's a chump when it comes to women. Those are her words. He has a wife now he's been with many years in a relationship. She's fully standing by him. Dita Von Teese, his ex-wife, has come out also and declared that he did not abuse her. It's very clear to me.
Well, it seems like open and shut clearing, right? Like, I mean, an open and shut clearance. Now, I saw you met with him the other day. Now, is that the first time you ever got to meet him?
It is, absolutely.
I could tell by the look on your face, by the way. I could already, I don't know if it said it in the tweet, but I could just tell by the look on your face because you look like ecstatic.
Elated, yes. Yeah. Should. It's too bad you can't pull it up because I should have gotten it.
No, I can grab it. I can.
Just scroll down my Twitter while I'm talking.
Yeah, keep talking though.
No, I'd never met him, and actually, someone took several photos. Actually, his wife, Lindsay, was taking the photos, but she took several, and I'm smiling in 3 of them, but in the 4th, I had that look of like elation on my face, and I said, that one captures it. That's good. No, despite what a number of my detractors think and have claimed over the years, I have not had this tight relationship with Marilyn Manson and have never spoken to him. I've never spoken to him prior to this. And the things that I've done, and the things that I've talked about because I believe them. And I think after stating what I've just stated, you can all see why. And so, yeah, there it is. I went to a concert. I had announced that I was going to go to his first concert, his comeback concert. And so I was already going, had tickets and everything. And as it got to be the week of the concert, I was hearing from certain mutual people that there were, friends and some fans that Manson was going to be meeting with after his show. And so I thought, I shouldn't pass up this opportunity to meet with him. So kind of through back channels, I was able to meet him after the show. And, I'll tell you, Ethan, I thought about not doing it or not publicizing it because I know there are going to be a lot of people who say, oh, look, you know, she's just looking, she's elated. Look at this. She's just a dumb fan. And the whole reason she's been doing all this for the last 3.5 years is just to ingratiate herself with Manson. But
you are a fan of his work, though, right?
I am a fan now. But coming into this, like,
you weren't like a mega.
No, I mean, I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and so I knew there were 6 songs, you know, that we probably all know,
Yes,
and I liked and everything. But I'm just not a huge music person. I like classic rock.
Me
So,
too,
like,
actually. Yeah,
yeah,
Rolling Stones.
but
But anyway, go ahead.
yeah, absolutely. And so anyway, I thought about not putting it out there, but I was like, screw it. I'm tired of letting these kinds of concerns like worry me. And so I'm just going to put it out there and people can think what they want to think. And also I was really in a very celebratory mood because I do feel like he's really cleared some big hurdles. Yes, he's still got some of the legal shit to deal with, the lawsuits and public perception, but he's cleared some big hurdles to be back now and to be climbing iTunes and to be putting out videos that millions of people watch and so forth. And so I kind of felt like maybe there was a little like breathing room now to not have to worry about perception quite so much. But it was fun to meet him. I only talked to him for a little while. There are a lot of people coming backstage and in and out and so forth. I got to meet him and his lovely wife, Lindsay, and we talked about some serious stuff related to his philosophy about what the last few years have meant to him. And I think that if there's one thing that I would feel comfortable sharing, I'll talk about this more in a video later, but he really does feel like a lot of good, even though it's been like the trials of Job for him the last few years. He really does feel like a lot of personal good has come out of it for him and strengthening some of his relationships and also giving him some perspective and also encouraging his sobriety because he had been trying, as I understand, to quit some stuff for several years. But when all of this happened, it wasn't related to the drinking, but when all this happened, I think he had the feeling of like, okay, it's time to like really get my life together because I'm going to have to go forward. I'm going to have to go to war. Basically.
You have to be sharp. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. And I know the feeling. I've, slipped a couple times. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I decided that it's like, I'm going to have to be sharp to go through this. And so, yeah, I definitely understand that feeling.